Welcome to the God connection. When the truth becomes too weighty, even the most proud person must stoop. Imagine this. Someone who has hurt you or kept secrets from you is presently attempting to sleep. They feel as if they are carrying a rock in their chest. They toss and turn, hoping to alleviate their misery. But the humiliation has embedded itself in their very being. And guess what? God will not let them rest until they confess to you. Yes, they are virtually tormented by their guilt, and it is past time they confessed. Here is an intriguing fact. According to research, the majority of individuals who feel guilty exhibit physical symptoms such as restlessness and a racing heart. This is particularly true for the selected ones. Your energy has a distinct power, almost supernatural in character, making it hard for those who have crossed you to find peace. They could even wake up sweaty and mumbling, as I should name them. So, if you're wondering why someone suddenly wants to admit something they prefer keep concealed, be prepared. This is not just a casual confession. It's an unraveling, a spiritual reckoning. And honestly, it will be interesting to see. Number one, they are unable to resist the heavenly pull on their conscience. When someone wrongs a chosen one, the resulting remorse is unlike any other. It becomes a persistent load on their soul, intensified by a force they can't overcome. It's as if the universe would not let them off the hook, no matter how hard they try to forget what they did. The strain builds, with whispers reaching even their most intimate moments. Every effort to ignore is like tightening a knot around one's own chest till it hurts. There is no comfort since their mind isn't playing tricks on them. The supernatural pressure and relentless force almost drives them to confront the truth. They immediately see this in every facet of their existence. Small annoyances accumulate into hefty weights. Their tolerance has worn thin, and even sleep fails them, bringing unpleasant dreams or that gnawing restlessness that keeps them awake, looking at the ceiling in the dead of night. They understand that this sensation is stronger than everything else. They may just shrug off. They feel as if they are being led or even pushed to set things right. No matter how painful it is or how daunting the possibility of admitting is, it becomes clear that it is their only option. That is the might of divine justice. It will not release them till they have come clean. The more they resist, the greater the pressure increases. It seems if a weight was weighing down on their heart. The knowledge they're suppressing acts like a stone in their soul, making it hard to go ahead. The only way they'll be relieved is if they confess to you. It is not just a case of admitting blame. It is about survival, about releasing a burden from which they would be unable to release themselves until they make apologies with you. Number two, they recognize that you are a part of their spiritual test. When someone wrongs a chosen one, it is seldom the result of selfishness or a lack of discernment. It's normally considerably bigger than that. Deep down, on a level they may not fully understand, they feel it's part of a larger, almost supernatural examination. A selected person's presence has a specific quality, a spiritual gravity that brings out the best and worst in others. For the one who injured you, it is as if their spirit understands that it has failed and must make amends in order to pass the integrity test. This isn't about being smacked on the wrist by their conscience. It is about approaching a spiritual crossroads. They have an unsettling sensation that their own development or evolution is now linked to you, and that what they did, whether it was lying, treachery, or just failing to treat you properly, is something they will not quickly forget. The act itself throws a shadow over them, reminding them that they failed to meet the expectations of someone whose very nature requires honesty, respect, and commitment to higher standards. Confessing to you becomes, in some ways a means for them to redeem themselves, not just in your eyes, but also in their own spiritual path. The push to come clean is not just intended to relieve their guilt. It is a subtle yearning to avoid being trapped at a lesser level of awareness. It's as if their spirit is saying, you failed this test, but if you're brave enough to admit it, you might still be able to move forward. As a consequence, they are driven to you by an unseen power that tells them that if they do not confess, they would become spiritually lost. Individuals who admit their mistakes might regain their feeling of worth and move on from a choice that has left an indelible mark on their soul. Number 3, your presence disrupts their energy field. When someone crosses a selected one, their whole energy field is unstable. A chosen one radiates a specific frequency that enhances clarity, honesty, and sincerity in all relationships. This energy is powerful, even disruptive, particularly for individuals harboring secrets or concealing wrongs. When someone offends you, your energy acts as a mirror, reflecting the weight of their actions. They can't ignore it because your presence disrupts the hidden energy within them, pushing it to come to the surface. They start to feel vulnerable, apprehensive, and defensive. It's as if your energy causes a storm inside them, pushing them to confront what they'd rather be empty when they're near to you. This creates a lot of agony. They perceive a load that is not just mental, it's almost tangible. Your energy resonates like a tuning fork, making everything inauthentic inside them vibrate uncomfortably. They may seem uncomfortable, annoyed, or even suspicious in your presence, as if you can see through their layers. Their responsibility becomes obvious and endearing. They are fully aware of it, and it is almost terrifying. This disruption builds up over time, pushing them closer to the breaking point. They can only find comfort by being honest with you. It's as if they're attempting to balance their own energy field by confessing, hoping that if they do, the weight of this disturbance would be removed. Being around someone who has unresolved regret feels like they have a ticking time bomb inside of them. It is only a matter of time until they are forced to face the facts. Confessing them becomes the only way to achieve any kind of serenity. Number 4, confessing is their last opportunity to prevent terrible luck. When someone wrongs a chosen one, it's as if they accidentally unleash a torrent of misery on their own life. Initially, they might dismiss it as a coincidence. We're missing an important deadline here. There's a little discussion there, but then the setbacks begin to pile up. They start to lose out on previously accessible opportunities, having financial issues or coping with ongoing disruptions in their personal life. What appears to be a string of bad days becomes much more persistent, as if an invisible force is blocking them at every step. Their poor luck is more than simply unfortunate timing. It's as if an invisible weight is pulling their lives off track, bringing turmoil and disappointment when everything used to go well. This terrible series of events starts to wear them down psychologically and emotionally. No matter what they attempt to do to break the streak, whether it's working more, preparing better, or being optimistic, nothing seems to succeed. That's when people start to wonder whether their behaviors toward you are tied to what's happening to them. The idea may start as a little whisper, a small notion in the back of their mind, but it becomes louder as their luck worsens. They begin to think that their suffering is the result of cosmic justice with unintended repercussions. They eventually get to the point when confessing looks to be the only way out. Accepting responsibility for their acts seems to be their only opportunity to break the curse. They are desperate for assistance, and admitting to you seems like a lifeline. A way to start over and stop the downward spiral of bad luck that has taken over their lives and their imaginations. Confession is no longer only about releasing guilt. It is about finding a way to break the downward cycle that has transpired in their life since they wounded you. Number 5, the unseen soul tie attracts them to you. Some individuals have a greater emotional connection to a chosen one than they realize. There's an unspoken soul contract at work. An agreement made on a spiritual level, maybe before they entered this life. This soul contract says that they will ultimately meet you. Make a mistake that will push both of your spirits to the test and provide you with the chance to make amends. Wronging you is not a random act. It's part of a larger spiritual lesson, a predefined responsibility built into their soul's path. This is neither a traditional apology or a simple sorry. Whether they realize it or not, confronting you provides them with a much deeper, more meaningful chance to experience humility, development, and accountability. There is a pull that attracts individuals back to you, prompting them to confess, not just to relieve their conscience, but also to fulfill the deeper purpose entrenched in their soul's journey. It's as if they've been given a spiritual mission and can't avoid it. They can't truly go on until they complete this commitment. Every day, they suppress the need to confess. They seem to be losing touch, cut off from themselves and life's rhythm. They may feel a strange emptiness, an unexplained sense of being lost or unfinished. This draw toward you is their spirit's way of telling you that you have unfinished work here. By coming clean, they fulfill their share of the soul contract, discovering not just atonement but also a key lesson that will bring them closer to their ultimate goal. The confession is more than simply a relief. It acts as a doorway to spiritual development, a turning point that permits them to continue on their path to being the people they were meant to be. 6. They're worried your spiritual energy will expose them. When someone mistreats a chosen one, they often understand they are dealing with an unfamiliar power. It's not just about deceiving someone. It's like attempting to hide from someone who can see beyond the surface. They begin to realize that your intuition or spiritual skill is far sharper than they expected. It makes people uneasy. You have a remarkable ability to read between the lines, sense what others hide, and see past facades. And it is what worries them most. The idea that you may already know or might easily uncover their behavior. This knowledge eats away at them, generating continual anxiety. They grow to fear that you will confront them at any moment. They are desperate to keep their secrets concealed, and they feel vulnerable in your presence, as if a single glance or word from you may cause them to split apart. This terror provides a motivator for people to come clean before they are fully exposed. They do not only fear your judgment, they are worried about the spiritual ramifications of keeping the truth from someone as astute as you. They look to be standing at the cliff's brink. They feel that by continuing to spread false information, they are persuading a greater force to take action against them. Confess. It seems to be the sole alternative for mitigating the projected consequences. They think that by taking the first step and approaching you honestly, they might reduce the unavoidable consequences. Accepting responsibility for their actions seem to be their only option for avoiding an even worse punishment. They feel a spiritual consequence developing in your presence. Their need to confess gets stronger, even urgent, as if it is their last opportunity to escape an internal storm. Only you seem to possess the potential to release 7. Their ego is eventually overwhelmed by spiritual repercussions. Admitting mistake is generally beyond the comprehension of someone who has abused a loved one. Their ego is a fortress, a barrier that prevents them from acknowledging fault. Pride tells them that they are always in control and that apologizing is unnecessary. But this time, something changes. They start to feel a weight bearing down on them that goes beyond normal sentiments of guilt. Their guilt isn't the only thing bothering them. They also get the impression that they're up against something far bigger than themselves. The energy they're feeling is nearly overpowering, as if the cosmos is telling them to come clean. For the first time, they comprehend that their ego is vulnerable in the face of this spiritual conclusion. Their standard defenses fail under this strain. It's a celestial judgment, a consequence that gets to the core of who they are, ripping down every mental barrier they've built to keep themselves safe. The unpleasant sensation worsens on a daily basis, generating discomfort that their pride cannot ignore. They understand that no amount of ego, denial, or self-righteousness can shield them from the force that drives them toward the truth. The weight grows agonizing, leaving them with just one choice: submit. Confessing seemed like the only way forward. It's no longer about preserving face or avoiding the repercussions. It's about relieving the burden of opposing something much greater than their own will. Confession becomes an act of humility at that point, as they recognize that they have no control over their acts and cannot escape the consequences. They soon recognize that they can't fight the spiritual forces at work. The confession is more than just an apology. It is a rare moment of surrender, a humbling admittance that they have reached the limit of their own strength. Number 8, the spirit of truth has started to torment them. When someone wrongs a chosen one, the falsehoods they tell create a complex web around them, giving them a false feeling of security. They feel they can maintain power by hiding the facts. However, lies generate their own energy, a heavy, tangled force that soon becomes suffocating. Over time, the weight of this lie becomes suffocating, leading to an uneasy sensation that something is wrong. The falsehood they've created seems to engulf their whole being. However, its intensity pales in compared to the unwavering power of truth. As the days pass, they begin to feel the energy of truth intruding on their reality, as well as an almost scary presence that refuses to go. It may emerge in a number of ways. They experience recurring nightmares that remind them of their previous acts. They may have sudden flashes of memory or unexplained feelings of fear. They might wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in perspiration, with images of their transgressions racing through their heads. This energy cannot be ignored. It chases them, entering their thoughts and disrupting their peace. They begin to believe that something is chasing them, an ethereal entity that demands acknowledgement. This feeling grows more strong. A fundamental drive to face what they have buried, no matter how hard they try to avoid it. The truth pushes at them relentlessly, compelling them to face the reality they've been avoiding for so long. They realize that the only way to stop this nagging spirit is to confess to you and acknowledge what they did at the time. They recognize that the weight of their falsehoods is considerably less than the burden of confronting the truth. By facing you and revealing their actions, they will finally be free of the energy that has entangled them, releasing their soul from the darkness that have pursued them for far too long. 9. Their spirit is seeking your forgiveness in order to attain inner peace. There is a part of them that understands a fundamental truth. Forgiveness from a chosen one is unlike any other. It's more than simply a kind gesture or a way to make apologies. It represents a unique form of grace, a spiritual balm that may heal wounds and restore equilibrium. They may not completely comprehend it, but their soul fervently desires forgiveness. It's a hunger that goes beyond words and actions. It is a deep desire to be rid of the burden they have carried since they injured you. This need is not just for your forgiveness to relieve their humiliation. It's all about giving their soul a much-needed energy cleansing. They understand that hanging on to their falsehood has tainted their essence, leaving them feeling heavy and clouded. Without your forgiveness, their soul becomes trapped, burdened by guilt and remorse. They can find themselves navigating life in a fog, unable to really connect with pleasure or tranquility. The possibility that your forgiveness could provide them the relief they seek gnaws at them, a constant reminder of what's at danger. The desire for your forgiveness goes beyond the superficiality of an apology. There is a great desire for independence from the ties they have constructed for themselves. They understand that coming to you and acknowledging their wrongdoing is an important step toward liberation. It's about freeing oneself from the emotional turmoil that has plagued them, enabling their spirit to soar above the weight of their choices. They believe that by confessing to you, they will be able to reclaim their feeling of wholeness and experience the lightness that comes from being forgiven by someone with tremendous spiritual understanding. This trip for your forgiveness evolves into a quest for their own redemption, a key step in restoring their spirits and finding the calm they seek. Number 10, they want your respect, even if they do not deserve it. A deep insight lies at the center of their anguish. Your esteem is sacrosanct, a precious jewel that they wasted by their actions. They sense the weight of what they've lost, and it eats away at them. However, at this moment of clarity, they sense a deep stirring inside, a desperate need to confess and lay bare their wrongs in the hopes of regaining even a fraction of that dignity. Being honest with yourself is more essential than seeking affirmation from others. Your view isn't just another judgment. It represents who they might be if they were not overwhelmed by guilt and shame. They see you as a mirror, reflecting both their mistakes and their potential for growth in your presence. They acknowledge the potential of atonement, no matter how little it seems. The idea of confessing and obtaining even a little of your admiration fills them with optimism. They want to stand in front of you, stripped of ego and vulnerability, and tell their truth. They do not only want your approval, they want to see a new version of themselves reflected back, one that embodies honesty, integrity, and the ability to change. This moment is more than just about regret. It is about the potential for change. They recognize that they may not deserve your regard right now, yet the desire to gain drives them on. It's a powerful force that encourages people to own their faults and seek the honesty that will help you rebuild your relationship. They want to be seen as more than their faults. They want to emerge from the shadows of their choices, standing in the light of your acknowledgement and revealing that they want to establish a new narrative in which they may reinvent themselves and get the respect they so badly seek, reflecting the most authentic version of who they are meant to be. Number 11, they hope you can unblock them once they've insulted you. An unsettling quiet pervades their life, as if everything is. Even their health looks to deteriorate, a visible expression of the internal turmoil. In this state of chaos, they begin to see a disturbing trend. Everything they formerly took for granted now seems strangled, as if an invisible force has severed their connection to riches and pleasure. On a subliminal level, people begin to see you as a gatekeeper, an indispensable person whose presence restores the flow of life they much lack. They understand that their actions have not only harmed you, but have also created a barrier between them and the universe's natural resources. In their thoughts, if they could only make peace with you, confess and clear the air, they may be able to regain the lost balance. This confession turns into a desperate appeal for freedom, a last-ditch effort to reignite the flow of optimism that had been turned off. They think that by repairing the harm they have caused you, they will not only rebuild the relationship, but also reopen the channels of good fortune that seem to have closed. It takes faith to trust that your forgiveness will function as a spark, transforming their lives from stagnation to abundance. They are not merely seeking your forgiveness. They want for the chance to rekindle their vigor, ingenuity, and delight in their eyes. Your forgiveness implies a restoration to the life they previously had, one filled with connection, opportunity, and health. The weight of their confession carries not just the burden of guilt, but also the hope that it would lead to a better, more prosperous future. Number 12, they see a difference in spiritual power as you climb as a chosen one. Your spiritual path has become a rich tapestry of growth, elevation, and deep change. You are not just existing. You are fiercely pursuing new heights. And the transformation is not going ignored. They can detect a change in your energy as your presence now emanates power and purpose. Meanwhile, their own advancement has halted, leaving them feeling trapped in a cycle of their own making. There is a distinct distinction. Your soul soars, but you feel heavy and stranded, like a ship grounded in turbulent waves. This disparity produces unmistakable tension, a growing divide that is impossible to ignore. They may detect a change in spiritual power around you, emphasizing their own limits and inadequacies in the face of your ascent. They are faced with the harsh truth of their deeds and the consequences that have led them to this point. The drive to confess arises out of a strong desire to bridge the gap before it becomes insurmountable. They understand that without some kind of reconciliation, they risk being left behind, spiritually adrift, and diminished. This confession is their effort to realign themselves with you and regain a feeling of connection before you entirely move on. It is not only about asking for forgiveness. It is about admitting a significant change in power dynamics. They understand that as you progress, they dread being fully overshadowed, and the idea of isolation is terrifying. They want to step out of the shadows and into the light, thinking that by being honest, they might regain a position in your spiritual path recognizes that your advancement affects more than just them. It opens the path for their own potential progress. Ultimately, this act of confession becomes a vital step in their journey to redemption. A last-ditch attempt to reconnect with your tremendous energy. They believe that by addressing their faults, they would be able to reverse the tide of their own stagnation and return to the spiritual path they previously pursued. They want to be a part of your journey again, not as an anchor, but as someone who can accompany you. Enriched by the link that brought them to light. The journey of seeking forgiveness and confessing is more than a transaction. It is a thorough examination of the human soul, rich in complexity and depth, for those who have wounded a loved one. The repercussions are nothing less than existential. They are plagued by a deluge of fears, regrets, and realizations, all of which contribute to a yearning desire for atonement. The need for honesty encompasses more than just making apologies. It's a road to regaining their soul, an essential step in reclaiming the riches that formerly flowed freely in their lives. By reaching out, people appreciate the significance of your consideration and the authority you have as a guardian to their own independence. The act of confession becomes their lifeblood, a thread with the power to reintegrate them into the fabric of your elevated being. They realize that this is more than merely absolving their guilt. It refers to the potential of spiritual alignment, the chance to climb with you rather than being hurled into the darkness they have created. Finally, their willingness to confess demonstrates a real yearning for connection, a desire to bridge the spiritual divide that has created between you. They desire more than just forgiveness. They want to retake their standing in the world and unite with the brightness you offer. They summon the fortitude to speak their truth. They enter an era beyond words. Whether their confession leads to reconciliation, it is a transformative act that echoes throughout the fabric of their being. It's a watershed moment for self-awareness, bravery, and the possibility of atonement. In this complex dance of souls, they recognize that the road to forgiveness is as much about their own enlightenment as it is about reestablishing their connection to you. If these concepts resonated with your personal path and the intricacies of human relationships, don't miss out on the transformative adult stuff we provide here. To join our community of searchers and truth tellers, just click the subscribe button. We will go further into the spiritual pathways that lead us, exploring the complexities of connection and forgiveness, and discovering the knowledge that empowers us all. We appreciate your support and look forward to continuing this adventure with you. So sign up now, and let's raise our spirits together. God bless you.